So find yourself coming into a comfortable seated position. Feel your feet on the ground if you're sitting in a chair. And then sit up nice and tall. Draw the shoulder blades back. Let the crown of the head reach up towards the sky. You may want to close your eyes for a moment or take the attention inward. And just begin to notice the natural rhythm of your breath. The flow of the inhale and the exhale. And then take a deep cleansing breath in through the nose. And then exhale, let it go with a big sigh. Let's do that one more time. Take a deep breath in through the nose. And then let it all go. What if something as simple as taking a deep cleansing breath could be the one thing that could change your entire life? Could be the one thing that could change the world that we live in together? Some would say that the world is shifting, that the world is changing. Some would even say that the world is falling apart. But what if that was actually the good news? And what if, in this single breath, we could create the world that we want to live in together? I spend most of my time teaching about living yoga rather than doing yoga and leadership and the relationship between the two. That yoga is so much more than downward-facing dog, but as my teachers say, it's about skillful participation and engagement with life. And that leadership is more than a job or a position that you hold, but about taking responsibility for every moment of every breath, of every second, of every day. And each and every one of us is being called to both living yoga and leadership. That we're being called to say, what is our greatest potential? There's a big difference between philosophy and transformation, and I love to philosophize. I will do it until the wee hours of the night. But philosophy tends just to be a good idea, and transformation is actually doing something about that idea. Now, how many of you know that compassion and forgiveness are good ideas, right? And how many of you forget to practice compassion and forgiveness on a regular basis, right? So again, transformation is this idea, well, what do we do with these things that we know, that we inherently know inside are good for us? Now, imagine that we were on a boat together and we were setting course for 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 years together. So take a moment and look around. I hope that you like the company you're keeping, because we're going on this boat ride together. And if we were setting course in this direction, and we were to change course 1 degree, what would happen over that time period? We'd end up in a totally different place. So transformation doesn't mean that you need to quit your job, go gluten, sugar, dairy-free, have a gratitude journal, meditate every day, become a yoga teacher trainer, travel the world, write a book. It simply means committing to your 1 degree shift. And that if enough of us are daring and courageous enough to say, yes, what is my 1 degree shift? I think that we're going to end up in that place that most of us are longing for. That place of collaboration, of cooperation, of celebration. Each and every one of us is being called to something. And so often people will say, well, how do I know what my 1 degree shift is? What is it that I'm supposed to do? And this is when we come back to the breath. So take another breath in right now. And exhale. In this breath, in this moment, you're being called to something. There's something that's been trying to get your attention. There's something that's been calling you forth, that it's your time to do this thing. And it might be the place where you're committing what we call crimes against wisdom. Think of a crime against wisdom that you know that you might be creating. That could be your 1 degree shift. Or it could be the thing that breaks your heart, or the thing that you care enough about that you want to bind yourself to that thing, that you want to do that thing. What is it that's calling? And usually life shows up like this, and it's usually a gentle nudge at first, or a gentle knock where it's knock, 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 trying to get your attention. And then it's a little louder if we don't listen. Oh, knock, 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 knock. Oh, you're still not listening. And it becomes the cosmic 2x4, wha-bam, 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 where we get knocked over the head. Does anybody know what I'm talking about? Yeah. So the cosmic 2x4 shows up and says, we're trying to get your attention. We're trying to give you clues about what your 1 degree shift is, about the ways in which you could be headed. So what is it that's calling you? What is it that's trying to get your attention? And what are you prepared to do about it? One of the most powerful 1 degree shifts that I can think of is being daring and courageous enough to celebrate your authentic self. the part of you that is whole, that is complete, that is perfect. The part of you that was here before your grandparents were born, the part of you that will be here after you take your final exhale, the part of you that is here right now. I have an amazing family. I have a mother and a father that love me and brothers that love me, and I have 2 older brothers. And as much as my mother definitely loves my brothers, she definitely wanted a little girl. When she was pregnant, the doctors kept telling her, looks like you're gonna have another boy, looks like you're gonna have another boy. We think you're gonna have another boy. And had I turned out to be a boy, I know that she would have loved him. However, some would say that the day that I was born, my mother was beyond excited to have a little girl. So I decided to do an experiment a few years ago where I was gonna look myself in the mirror and see if I could see myself the same way that my mother saw me on the day that I was born. And I figured, well, this should be easy. I spent a lifetime of teaching other people to love themselves, to skillfully engage in the world. Not a problem. So I go and stand in front of the mirror, and I look myself. And all of a sudden, every seemingly horrible thing I'd ever done in my entire life decided to reveal itself in that moment. It was like, remember in 7th grade when you cheated on that English test? Remember in 10th grade when you did that thing? And I was like, I'm a horrible human being. So I'm standing there, and I'm going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. How many of you have ever seen an Olympic ping pong match? Back and forth, back and forth. That was my inner world. At one point, I thought I was going insane. And I was like, no, you're whole and perfect, and you're complete. And then I'm like, you're terrible, back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And I finally, about an hour and a half later, got to a point where I was just weeping, standing in front of the mirror, when I realized what compassion and forgiveness truly is. That there actually comes a moment where we need to forgive ourselves for all the hurts that we've caused ourselves and other people. And there comes a time to say that this moment is a chance to show up again and to fully engage with life. Now, I have a dear friend that went through a traumatic experience, and she's what's known as a cutter. You might know someone that also does this. You might be someone that experiences this yourself. And if that's the case, I certainly hope that you're getting help. So she went through this experience, and her way of coping is she literally cuts herself with razor blades. And the truth of the matter is that most of us don't cut ourselves externally. We're not doing this. But what we do is we cut ourselves internally. We're saying one horrible thing about ourselves. We're comparing ourselves to other people. How many of you compare yourself to other people? And how do you usually feel? Right? Some of you are like, I'm looking around, I'm doing pretty good. But most of the time, we compare ourselves to other people and we feel terrible about ourselves. Comparison is an epidemic. One of the most powerful 1-degree shifts is to stop comparing yourself to other people, to celebrate that you are a gift, that never again will you exist, and we are creating something together. We are weaving and looming this beautiful experience of life together. It's a grand experiment. Now, one of the beliefs that I have is that yoga is a path that provides zero, count them, zero answers. And again, this is my belief system. But I actually think that that's the good news again, because if it provides zero answers, what it does do is it provides infinite inquiries and experiments. We can keep putting ourselves in this experiment and say, what's my best guess? What's calling me forth? What's wanting my attention? What am I ready to do? Can I be daring and courageous enough to put myself in the experiment for the sake of what's on the other side? May you cause yourself no harm. Stop harming yourself internally. And not only for the sake of yourself, but to be the source of inspiration for other people to do the same thing. Because like it or not, we're in this together. And may we be a beautiful reflection for one another. Most of us agree that we're not 100% authentic 100% of the time, which means we need to be accountable. We need to take responsibility for when we're out of alignment, when what we say, think, feel, and do aren't aligned. I once took this workshop, and there was this woman in the program, and we'll call her my greatest teacher, but she was also the person that got under my skin the most. Do you know what I mean? Do you have anyone in your life like that? Yeah. So we'll call her my teacher. And I remember talking to my personal mentor and just being like, can't people just be annoying and it has nothing to do with me? And he was like, no, it has everything to do with you. And I'm like, yeah. I get how other people, it could be about me, but if you met her, you would realize she's the most annoying person ever. So we call this the octopus on the face. It's the thing that you can see that I can't. It's my personal blind spot. So maybe we can all do this for a moment, right? Most of us don't want to think that we have this blind spot. But there's something that we can't see that other people can. And for many of us, learning about our own octopus on our face becomes our 1-degree shift. It becomes the work that we have to do in this lifetime. It becomes the direction that we need to go in. Where are you pointing the finger at other people? Where are you saying things like, hey, Obama, you should be doing this. Hey, mom and dad, you should have done this. Hey, school systems, you should be doing this. Rather than saying, what am I doing? How do I need to show up? What's my responsibility in this breath, in this moment? Because like it or not, most of us are actually doing the best that we can. And when we're called to our 1-degree shift, and we want to be our authentic selves, and we're trying to do the best we can and take responsibility, we also need to be willing to sit in what I like to call the sacred fire of transformation. That anytime we're called to anything in life, it's almost guaranteed that life is going to show up and say, oh yeah, really? Really? You want a healthy, loving relationship? Oh, you're all about peace? Really? And we get tested. And so often we do 95% of the work to get ourselves there, but it's actually the last 5% that counts. So where are you sitting on the edge of the fire? And what actually is your 1-degree shift is to take one more step, to go a little bit further, to get comfortable being uncomfortable for the sake of the nectar on the other side, right? We're all being called into this transformation. I'll tell you a little story. I used to love to go skydiving, and I love taking people for their first time ever. And I took one of my dearest friends, who was like a squeaky, loud kind of person. And I was on this small plane. It was a Cessna, and there was just 4 of us and the pilot that were on the plane. So if you've never been skydiving before, this is the way it works. So imagine that this is inside of the plane where we're sitting. This is outside of the plane where we want to jump. Okay? So I love seeing people jump out for the first time. So I'm like, oh my God, you're going to go. You're going to have so much fun. So this is my dear friend standing on the edge of the plane. Remember, this is out. This is in. So it's 1, 2, 3, jump. So her skydive master's on her back, and it's like this. 1, 2, and she turns around like this, jumps down to the ground. She's like, no, I don't want to go. And I see my best friend get ripped out of the plane. And I'm like, what have I done? Oh my God, I've killed my best friend. The reason I share this story with you is that we either need to skillfully engage with the fire of life, or sometimes life is just going to drag us out, right? So life is calling you, and sometimes life gets uncomfortable. So I'm going to give you a homework assignment for whenever we have a break today. You're going to get a timer, and you're going to put it on for 60 minutes. And your job is only to do this. Put your arms up in the air. That's all you're going to do. You're going to put your arms up in the air and notice about your inner world. Where do you go when life gets hot? And what do you need to do to stay in the fire for the sake of what's on the other side? One of my favorite sayings is, how you do anything is how you do everything. How you do this is probably how you're doing life, and may give you some insight into your 1-degree shift. So on our 1-degree shift, we're being called all of the time to be our authentic selves, to be accountable, to sit in the fire of transformation, to say yes to that last 5%. But in that pause, in that breath, in this moment, we have a chance to change our entire life. So let's take another breath in and exhale. So in this moment, we have the ability to start to see life clearly, without fear, without fantasy, without distortion. And not fear like a tiger is going to attack you, but that unnecessary fear that most of us are going through life, seeing life through that particular lens. So when I was 12 years old, some would say that I wasn't the most attractive 12-year-old. Some would even say that I was quite homely. Do you know what homely means? And my best friend at the time, she was the hot girl. She was the girl in 8th grade that was dating a senior in high school. She was that girl. So anytime any older boy or any boy ever wanted to talk to me, it was like, oh, where's your friend? Where's your friend? And I was like, oh, she's over there. She's over there. So I swore that I was never going to have a boyfriend. I was never going to have a first kiss, that I was going to die alone. We used to hang out at the Dunkin' Donuts parking lot where I grew up. Good time. So one time we were hanging out at the Dunkin' Donuts parking lot, and this older boy came up to talk to me. And I was like, oh my God, this is so exciting. He didn't ask for my best friend. This is my moment. Where's my chapstick? We're totally gonna make out. Sorry, Dad. So he was like, hey, I wanted to talk to you for a second. I was like, yeah, here I am. He said, yeah, you know the story of the Ugly Duckling? I was like, I do, beautiful swan. He said, yeah, I just wanted to let you know that you're an ugly duckling and you're never gonna be beautiful. At 12 years old, that was one of the worst things I could have ever heard. The truth of the matter is, I went on the rest of my life to prove him right. That how courageous of him to tell me the truth, because no one else is gonna tell me that. So I went on, I'm telling you this story over 25 years later. Clearly it had an impact. I went through life seeing life that way, that I'm not beautiful, that I'll never be beautiful. And I collected data. I collected evidence that he was right. Now this whole talk could have been, turn to the person next to you and share your story. And the truth is that we could have just wept for one another and been like, that's your story? I can't believe that's your story. And there's a time and a place for that, absolutely. But there's also a time and a place, and it could be in this breath, that you no longer need to be a victim to that story. Because your story isn't going away. Whatever happened to you, happened to you. It's the truth. But at some point, your story becomes fuel for your calling. Your story becomes fuel for your 1-degree shift. We compost that story. So to me, yoga is simply composting. How do you take the shit in your life and turn it into something useful? So often when we're called to our 1-degree shift and we're trying to be our authentic selves, we're trying to take responsibility, we're trying to sit in the fire, we're trying to rewrite our story and see life without wearing somebody else's lenses, without fear, fantasy, and distortion. We think because we're working hard that we're doing something that works, and that's often the myth. Now I'll end with another story. Some would say that when I was younger, I was highly competitive, and it was actually more with myself than other people. I had a handmade sign in my room that said, you didn't win the silver, you lost the gold. A bit much. I know, my dad would always be like, relax, kid, where did you come from? So I took this workshop when I was younger. It was a pretty simple exercise that we were gonna do. We were gonna be blindfolded, put into a maze, and all we had to do was get out of the maze. So I was like checking everybody out. I was like, I've got you, you could be a problem, I've got you. I'm like, all right, we got this. So they put the blindfold on us, and they're like, ready, set, go. And I'm like, drrrr. And all of a sudden, 20 seconds into it, this woman, Casey, we'll call her, who was my greatest teacher, got out of the maze first. And I was like, how did Casey get out of the maze before me? Clearly, I'm in the wrong program. Maybe they'll give me my money back. I'm like, what's going on? And I was like, all right, you didn't win the gold, but don't lose the silver. Keep your focus. So we're going. And during the whole process, different facilitators are coming up going, how's it going, Coby? And I'm like, if you could get away, I'd be doing great. I'm trying to get out of the maze. Thank you very much. Namaste. Now I hear, Bob is out of the maze. Sarah is out of the maze. Kristen is out of the maze. And I'm like, what is going on? Another facilitator comes up, how's it going, Coby? And I'm like, hi, please get away from me. I now hate you. So it's going. And I actually don't know how much time went by. It was 20 minutes, 30 minutes, 40 minutes, 50 minutes, 60 minutes, and on. Now everybody's out of the maze except for this girl. Still in the maze. Help, trying to get out. And another facilitator comes up to me and says to me again, hey, Coby, how's it going? And I was like, I don't know, I guess I need help. And in that pause, and in that breath, I heard, Coby is out of the maze. The only way out of the maze was to ask for help. It was actually a roped-off course. There was no physical exit. I can't believe I ever got out. So how many of you are stuck in the maze and you're forgetting to ask for help? One of the most courageous things you could do is to say, I need help. I'm in the maze. So if we're lucky enough to wake up again tomorrow, or the next day, because it is a gift to wake up, and we're lucky enough to take another breath, may you remember that in that moment, you have a chance to get on the boat, to change course your 1 degree, and begin again, and trust that there is always more to come. Thank you.